distinguishes him is his wilaya, meaning that how much does he conform with what Imam Ali Islam stood for. This is what makes somebody part of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And we have traditions where there was very devout companions of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, like Salman and others. Sometimes they would go to the Ahlul Bayt and they would say that, what is it going to be like for us in the hereafter? In this world, we have the honor of being in your company. But one thing that's really worrying us is that we won't be with you in the hereafter. And the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam assured them, and then they would say that you are from us, the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. On the other hand, we have examples of the past where people would be related by family to somebody, but they wouldn't be considered part of the family. The famous example is the son of Nabi Nuh alayhi salam, that I'm sure brothers and sisters are aware. But let me just quickly mention, because we have, alhamdulillah, we're blessed with the presence of a lot of younger individuals, children, youth. Nabi Nuh alayhi salam was a prophet of God, and he was a righteous person. And of course, he did his responsibility when it came to raising his family in a way that they would be believers in God. And many of his staunchest supporters, even at those times of greatest difficulty, were his own children. However, he had one son, Kan'an, who was not a believer. Why was he not a believer? The traditions don't seem to indicate a specific reason, but some have theorized, and some scholars have theorized, maybe they have access to some traditions that I haven't seen, but they theorized that perhaps it had to do with the friends that he had. Because after all, if somebody's growing up in the household of a prophet, they have that environment, they have the teachings, but the human heart is very delicate, and sometimes when somebody sees somebody who's closer to their age and they spend time with them, then they can become attracted to them in a way which pulls them away from the truth. So Nabi Nuh's son was somebody who was showing signs of not really being a believer, and eventually when the test came and the water started to flood the earth, he refused the invitation of his father to go into the ark. And he says that this mountain, I'm going to seek refuge in it, and it will protect me from the water. But of course, there was no protection from the order of God on that day. Only those who were aboard the ship were saved. So the point is that the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, we should think beyond just a family that's related by blood, but rather this is a family which represents all the greatest virtues. Now, Islam and the teachings of the Quran, what the Prophet wanted from us is to have that love in our hearts. Okay, what does that mean? It means that our hearts have to be such that it has room for having love of them. We have to cut ourselves off from those things that would take us away from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And if somebody is able to do this, this is something that will save them. It will guide them. It will be the thing which really is the shining light in their lives. I want to share a story. It's from Ayatollah Bahjad. I mentioned him a couple of times over the last few nights. This story is mentioned on his own website. It's something which you can find like a source for. So it comes from his son-in-law. He says that there was one time during my father's life, it seems like this was a story that came out after his father passed away. Maybe he didn't want it to be sort of spread when he was alive. So he says that my father, Ayatollah Bahjad, one time he received a visitor and the person who visited him was somebody who was an elderly scholar by the name of Ayatollah Fahri. Now, Ayatollah Fahri was older than Ayatollah Bahjad. He was 80 years old when he came to see Ayatollah Bahjad. But he knew that Ayatollah Bahjad was somebody who, was special, right? He received special attention from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam because of his purity, because of his taqwa, because of his staying away from sins, because of his ibadah. So during the course of the conversation, he says, look, I'm an elderly man right now, and I want to get something from you, but there's nothing that you can give me of this world that would be worth to me at this moment. I'm 80 years old now, right? I've lived my life. But if you want to give me something, then please tell me one thing that you have gotten as a result of the special attention of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. So after insistence, Ayatul Bahjat, finally he said, okay, I'll tell you one thing. So Ayatul Bahjat tells him that I went to Mashhad once for ziyarah of Imam Rida alayhi salam. And during the course of my ziyarah, I received something from the Imam alayhi salam himself. And he gave me 10 pieces of wisdom. One of those I will share with you. That's what he told Ayatollah Fahri. And that's what then has come to us. So this is what he says. He says that what Imam Rida alayhi salam told me is that, oh so-and-so, like, oh Muhammad Taqi Bahjan, is it possible that somebody should seek a refuge and seek solace with the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, and that they should not provide that to him? Okay, it's a simple but very, very powerful point. And as we are here, the thing that draws us here, that attracts us tonight, is the love of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. So it's a simple point, but it's extremely powerful. It's something which can be something that you can use at different times in your life. When you're facing different challenges, when you're facing sort of a fork in the road, when you don't know where to go, remember this point. Is it possible that somebody should seek refuge with the Ahlul Bayt and they should not receive him? The Ahlul Bayt al-Islam, in one of the ziyarat Jam al-Kabira, we're told how we should recognize what they represent. Okay, it says in that portion of the ziyarah, the Imam alayhi salam had told us to address the Ahlul Bayt al-Islam saying this, that when it comes to goodness, right, in dhukir al-khayru, if goodness is mentioned, antum, you are al-awwalu, you are the first, wa asluhu, you are the origin of it, wa ma'adinuhu, meaning that you are the storehouse from which goodness comes, wa ma'awahu, meaning that somebody wants to go into the house of goodness, it's your house, wa muntahahu, and also it mentions far'uhu as well too, meaning that you're the asl of it and the far, meaning you're both the root of it and also the branch of it as well too. You are the storehouse of goodness, and you are the home to go to, and you're also the perfection of goodness as well is found in you. This is very important, right? This is very important, that when somebody wants to have the definition of what is right, what is good, they should turn to nowhere else other than the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. This love is something that we need to work at preserving and growing. These 12 days or 11 days or 10 days, inshallah, have been an opportunity for us to revisit this, to rekindle that. But we have to work at preserving it, because when we go and look at what happened on this night, we see that there were people who used to mention the family of the Prophet in their prayers, but yet they are the ones who are crossing the lines and going to the tents to loot from the women of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. What that shows us is that if somebody doesn't, if they just leave it at the surface level and they don't work at preserving it, then it can be taken away from them. We have to strive hard, especially in the society that we're in right now. It's a society where they make use, the people who would like us to be swayed away from our beliefs, they know that our heart has this natural propensity to love. But what they do is they present other objects and they tell us, love these things. If you go and look at Karbala, this is the difference between the two, right? In one side, you had the noble companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. They were people who loved. And on the other side, you had people who loved. But the difference was the object of admiration and the object of love. When Imam Hussein alayhi salam confronts Umar ibn Sa'd, he says that, why don't you join me? Right? Umar ibn Sa'd was somebody who grew up with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Right? He was somebody who really knew better than to go ahead with the sadaq. He had heard all the ahadith. He went through all the historical events as well too. He knew about Ghadir, he knew about Mubahala, he knew about these different things. When he confronts him, he says that, why don't you join me? He says that, well, I have this governorship of Ray which I can't give up. Right? The idea is too attractive to me to give up. I have to go for that. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad has promised me that. Then he says that, okay, well, he tries to sort of like convince them. He says, well, I have this house and they'll destroy it. I have this money and they'll take it away. This is the love that had filled his heart, love of the dunya, love of himself and his own desires, and making sure that he's always comfortable. That's what filled his heart. But on the other side, you had these people who Imam alayhi salam referred to them as when he was passing by the land of Karbala, he said, this is Masari'u Ushaq. This is the place where the Ushaq are going to fall and be buried. The people whose hearts were filled with not just love, but incredible love and passion for Allah and for the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. In order to make sure that our hearts remain that way, we have to work hard. We have to strive hard. We need these type of gatherings. We need community. We need to work and persevere. We need to stay away from sin and make it be something which we work hard at. We need to make sure that we regularly receive spiritual reminders. Right? We can't expect to lead our lives in pure secularism where God's name isn't even mentioned, and that our hearts will just remain the same as they are. No, if we're spending 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours in environments that are godless, that means that we need a lot of effort to make sure that God remains alive in our hearts. We need to seek knowledge. Right? We need to take effort and take special care when it comes to our salah. We need to become familiar with the words of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, their stories, their munajat. Within the whispered prayers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, there are cures for all the spiritual diseases. We need to be familiar with these. We need to raise our children in a way that the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam always occupy the center of their hearts. And this takes work, my brothers and sisters. It can be done, but it takes effort and it takes work. So tonight is a night where we remember this principle, the principle of love of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Let us take this now and go to Karbala and try to imagine and envision the scene which is in front of us. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله صلى الله عليك يا ابن رسول الله صلى الله عليك أيها الشهيد وابن الشهيد يا سيد الشهداء يا سفينة النجاة. Peace and blessings be upon you, O our Master, Abu Abdullah. Peace and blessings be upon you and upon the Ahlul Bayt, and upon your children, and upon your noble companions, and upon the ladies in the tents on Shami Ghariban. Let us review what took place after the martyrdom of Imam Hussein earlier today on the day of Ashura. Soon after, word reaches the tents of what happened to Imam Hussein. The sister of Imam Hussein, Kulthum, cries out saying, Wa Muhammada wa Jadda wa Nabiya wa Abul Qasima وعليا وجعفرا وحمزة وحسنا Why is she mentioning the names of all these great men? The Rasulullah, Allah's Messenger, Ali, Hamza, Ja'far, Imam Hassan. She's mentioning their names because after all, who else is she supposed to call towards? She knows that the ladies have no protector to protect them against the enemy army at this time. She cries out, هذا حسين بالعراء ضريح بكربلاء محزوز الرأس من القفا مسلوب العمامة والرداء. This is Hussein. His body is on the plain of Karbala. They are taking away his imama. They are going and looting and plundering him. What a scene it was when the body of Imam Hussein alayhi salam falls to the ground. If somebody were observing, they would have seen that this was too much for the heavens and the earth to bear. There are traditions which say that the sky turned red on that day. Imam Ali alayhi salam had foretold that every living thing on the earth would shed tears, even the birds, the animals and the fish. When the event took place, they would shed tears over what would happen to Imam Hussein. Jibreel alayhi salam, when he meets Nabi Adam and tells him what's going to happen to Imam Hussein, he says something interesting. He says that your great-grandson will be afflicted with an affliction that no other affliction even comes close to this affliction. One of the scholars says that, in trying to explain this, he says that when you look at the ways that somebody can be killed, sometimes somebody comes and chokes them. Sometimes they come and they slaughter them. Sometimes they come and they hit them and beat them until they die. Sometimes they fire arrows to them. But may my soul be sacrificed to our master Imam Hussein alayhi salam, because he was killed not just in one way, but how did they not treat his body? What damage they not inflict upon it? When he falls to the ground, there is one man who comes and steals his shirt, another one who steals his sandal, another one steals his sword, another his bow, another his ring from his very finger. They don't leave anything untouched. But that is not enough. The injustice doesn't just stop there. The grandson of Rasulullah is further, his sanctity is further violated. Umar ibn Sa'd shouts, who volunteers to make sure that the chest and the back of Hussein are run over by the horses? There were 10 men who stood up. They mount their horses. They take them towards the body of Imam Hussein. This is the one that the Rasulullah had told the people that Hassan and Hussein are my two sweet smelling flowers from paradise. Look at what these men are doing with their horses. They're trampling the very flowers of Rasulullah. Do they not have any humanness in them? Later on they would proudly tell Ubaydullah, we are the ones who crushed the chest and the back. Mighty steeds made it like a river track. La'anatullahi alayhim. Then the enemy soldiers, their hunger for the dunya knew no end. They realize that there is no protector of the tents. They go rushing towards them like a wild beast who has found his prey. There's one lady who is from the enemy soldiers. Her husband is a soldier in the army of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. She realizes that this is something she cannot bear. There's something in her. She realizes that these are the daughters of the Messenger of Allah. What crime after all did they commit? If you had an issue with the menfolk, leave the women alone. She takes a sword and she faces the men of her own army, and she says that, how can you go and attack the daughters of the Messenger of Allah? But after all, what can she do? Her husband comes and disarms her. There is no one standing between them and the tents. What kind of scene was this? Don't you know that all your deeds are being witnessed by Allah? Don't you know that when you die, you will have to face the wrath of Rasulullah? They rush towards the tent. There's fire. They are going and robbing the ladies of the Messenger of Allah. The scarves were snatched. The rings were pulled off fingers. Earrings were taken out, and the ankle rings from the ankles. There's one man who goes to the daughter of Imam Hussein. Her name is Fatima. She wishes to loot her. As she goes and grabs the gold anklet from her ankle, she sees that he is crying. She asks him, "Ma yubkika ya adu Allah?" What is causing you to weep, O enemy of Allah? He tells her, كيف لا أبكي وأنا أسلب ابنة رسول الله. How can I not cry? I am stealing from the daughter of the Messenger of Allah. How can I not cry for that? She tells him that if that's the case, then don't take this from me. He says that if I don't do it, then somebody else will come and take it. I need this. I want to get my treasure. How can they not respect the hijab of the women of the Ahlul Bayt? These are the descendants of the Prophet. She says that there is another man who comes and takes the very outer covering that we were using to cover our bodies. When she sees that she is uncovered, she goes to her aunt Zainab and she tells her, "Oh my aunt, is there anything you can give me that I can cover my hair with? I want to cover my head from the eyes of these strange and these non-mahrams." And she tells her, "Ya binta, oh my dear daughter, wa ammatuki mithluki." Don't you see that your aunt is just in your same situation as you are? And she says that I saw her head and it too was uncovered. They go from tent to tent, seeking treasure, pulling off the garments, looting the tents. This is the prize that they have been waiting for. Finally, they come to a tent where they are surprised to see that there is a young man who is lying there. It is the tent of Imam Hussein alayhi salam's living son, the Imam of the time, Imam Sajjad. Imam Sajjad alayhi salam is so sick at that time, he doesn't have any energy to stand up. They were arguing with each other. Some of them said, "Let's go and kill him." Others said that no, let us go and ask Umar ibn Sa'ad, let's go and ask and consult what we should do. But one of them decides that he wants to put an end to it. He goes and he raises his sword, but he sees that there is a lady who is not going to let this happen. Zainab alayha salam, she goes and she realizes that this is her duty to protect the Imam of her time. She tells them that you will not kill him before killing me first. They say that if this is the case, then we're going to leave him alone. Now they take the fire and they go towards the tents. One by one they light the tents on fire. The narrator reports what happened. It's so sad to imagine it. He says, ثُمَّ أَخْرَجُوا النِّسَاءَ مِنَ الْخَيْمَةِ. They made the women folk come out of the tents. وَأَشْعَلُوا فِيهَا النَّارِ. They lit their fires to the tents. فخرجنا حواسر مسلبات حافيات باكيات. They came out barefooted with all their goods stolen, They are going and walking around with tears streaming from their faces. Yamshina sabaya. They are walking around as prisoners. This is the fate of the women folk of the Ahlul Bayt. Look at how they're being treated. What a night it must have been after the night of Ashura. Just take a moment to imagine the scene. On one side, you have the bodies that are strewn around. They have been trampled. On the other hand, you have the children crying, asking about their fathers. You have the lady folk of the Ahlul Bayt wondering that how much tragedy will they have to face. We're told that at this point somehow the daughter of Imam Hussein, Sukaina, somehow she makes their way to the body of her father. I don't know how she could have recognized the body of her father, but we're told that when she found it, somehow in another world, Imam Hussein alayhi salam has a message that he conveys to her. He tells her, Shi'ati, ما إن شربتم ري عذب فاذكروني أو سمعتم بغريب أو شهيد فاندبوني. O my Shia, whenever you drink a gulp of nourishing water, remember me. If you ever hear of somebody who is ghareeb or who becomes a shaheed, then mourn over me. What a night it must have been, so much confusion, so much worry. But what do we see is the state of Zainab alayha salam on this night. Imam Sajjad alayhi salam says that my aunt Zainab, she kept on going from one child to another child, consoling them, taking care of their needs. She kept on going from one lady to the other, consoling her, telling her to be patient. But then he says something so strange and amazing. He says that my aunt Zainab, that night, she spent the night worshipping Allah. She was standing in prayer. She was whispering to Allah in her special munajat. This is how the Ahlul Bayt, they found their solace in their connection to Allah. But Imam Sajjad alayhi salam says one thing that can break our hearts. He says that on that night she was standing in prayer, but there were some times on the journey to Sham, she would never miss her night prayers, but there were some times when I saw that she was sitting down for the prayer. I asked her, "Oh my aunt, why is it that I see you sitting down for the night prayer?" She says that there are times when I have to share my food with the children who are hungry because they are prisoners and I don't have enough strength to be able to stand for my night prayer. Allah la'anatullahi ala al-qawm al-zalimin wa saya'lamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalibin yanqalibun. We ask Allah Ta'ala to accept this majlis and all the majalis from us. We ask Him to always keep our heart alive with the love of the Ahlul Bayt, and this love not just be at the level of emotion, but it reaches the level of practice in every aspect of our life. Oh Allah, we ask you to guide us so that we can center our values around the values of the Ahlul Bayt. We can center our activities and our goals and purposes around their goals and purposes. We ask you to grant us the tawfiq of serving the cause of preparing the grounds for the Imam of our time. We ask you to allow us to witness his dhuhur in our lifetimes. We ask you, Ya Allah, to hasten his reappearance. We ask you, Ya Allah, to give solace to the families whose zuwar today in Karbala were trampled. It was a very tragic incident that took place. At least 30 people, zuwar of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, were trampled in a stampede today. We ask Allah to give patience to the families of these individuals. We ask Allah to relieve the oppression of all those who are suffering in Nigeria. There were dozens of individuals who were killed today for no crime other than coming out and mourning for what took place on the day of Ashura. They were just those who were azadars of Imam Hussein, but yet they were killed for no crime other than that, even if that, of course, is not a crime. We ask Allah to relieve the oppressed of their oppression. We ask Him to hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.